Hello, welcome to Papa Nick's Music. I am, as always, your host, Papa Nick Lewis, and today we are talking about ELO, the Electric Light Orchestra. Ooh, I love ELO. I love ELO. I love ELO. I have always liked ELO. It's always been one of my favorite bands. They were, as soon as I started thinking about doing these album ranking videos and videos where I talk about music, I knew I was going to be doing an ELO ranking somewhere along the line. And today is the day. uh, Very quickly, let's talk about the ground rules. When we rank albums here at Papa Nick's Music, we rank original studio albums that are primarily purposed as albums. So, original. No compilations, no remasters, no re-recordings. So we're not doing any of the greatest hits packages. We're not doing flashback, any of that kind of stuff. We're not doing remasters. Secret Messages was re-released as a special edition where Jeff Lynne restored it to double album status. We're not going there. We're just dealing with the original versions of the albums. No compilations, no re-recordings. Studio, so we're not doing live albums. ELO didn't release a whole lot of live stuff, at least as far as I'm aware of, but we're just not going to deal with that. Although I do strongly recommend both their Zoom concert movie that they did. It was a performance on a soundstage. It wasn't actually live. Like a full-fledged concert, but it is a live performance and it's very strong. And I recommend the Wembley concert. But we're not talking about those here today. Album, it has to have a certain length. It's got to be, my general working definition is we want something that's 30 minutes or greater, 8 songs or greater, that kind of thing. Which means we are not going to do Xanadu. Now, we could also get rid of Xanadu because it's a soundtrack. It's not really a typical soundtrack. It's more, music, songs that were recorded to be used in the movie that they released as an album as well. It's not. It doesn't have, orchestral moments from the movie or anything like that. At least, I don't think it. It's been a while since I've listened to it. But if we just focused on the ELO part of that, it would be an EP because it's one side of the album is ELO, the other side's Olivia Newton-John. So we're carving that one out. Which leaves us with 14 albums that they released between 1971's self-titled debut, The Electric Light Orchestra, released in America as No Answer, and 2019's From Out of Nowhere. And we're going to rank these things. Before I get into the ranking, though, subjectivity notice time. Aesthetic appreciation is, by its very nature, a subjective experience. There is no such thing as objectively good or objectively bad art. There is only art that I like and art that I do not like. And as long as we keep that in mind, this is a wonderful conversation. It's entertaining. It's enlightening. It's everything. Everything good and positive and happy and sunshiny comes from a discussion of art with people who enjoy the same art form. It goes right down the shit chute as soon as somebody involved in the conversation is hung up on being right. No, there is no such thing as right. I'm going to tell you how I rank these albums. I am not making any sort of commentary that if you think the one I have at 14 is actually the best one, then you're just wrong and you need to sit down and shut the hell up. No. No. I'm not saying that. And as long as you don't say that in the comments, we're good. So there's no such thing as objectively good or objectively bad music. There is only music that I like, music that I do not. It's all a matter of perspective. With that being said, let's jump in. I normally would go in depth about rattle on for 15, 20 minutes about the background of the band, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to jump into the albums. I'm going to assume that you're here because you love ELO as much as I do, so you already know all of that backstory. If you're interested in the backstory, drop a line. I'll fill you in. Coming in at number 14. Now, before I do this, I knew there was something I was forgetting. If you have watched one of my previous videos, you know that when I start thinking in terms of relative quality, when I start thinking in terms of how I'm going to rank these things, The first thing I do when I'm listening to the albums is I assign the albums letter grades. Um, Average, normal, what you would expect from an album that was performed by and recorded by people whose job it is to perform and record music, right? Good, solid, workmanlike effort. May not necessarily press all your buttons, but it's not going to drive you crazy either. It's just what you would expect from a typical album. That's a C. That's normal, that's average, that's everyday. If it is good, that gets it a B. If it's, oh man, no, this is not good, don't, no, that gets it a D. If it is, oh my God, fantastic, that gets it an A. And if it is, oh my God, what the hell, light a match. Get this thing out of the house before it stains the rugs, right? That's an F. Um, and most of these ranking videos that I've done, there are albums that are in the C territory. I've even a couple that have been in the D territory. When I did talking about the Beach Boys, there are a couple, three Beach Boys albums that are firmly down in D territory. Summer in Paradise, that thing's got D tattooed on its fucking forehead. When I'm thinking about the Monkees have a couple, three C albums, right? It is unusual that I will like a band so much that none of their albums are even average or typical. Everything is good or better, right? It's either really good or it's superlative. There's no downside. Steely Dan, I have that reaction to, and ELO, I have that reaction to. There are no bad albums here. The absolute lowest grade I would give any of these is a B. Not even a B minus, a good solid B. Okay? Keep that in mind as we go through these things. Coming in at number 14, my lowest ranked album of the ELO discography, still ends up getting it a B, which means it's still better than what most bands are doing on their best day. Number 14 is 1983's Secret Messages. This is a good album. It's a B. We've got really good songs on here. Rock and Roll is King was the radio single. Four Little Diamonds is pretty good. Take Me On and On is good. A lot of good music on here. It's also very much a product of the fact that it was recorded in 1983. So if you like the way the 80s sounded, then you're going to like this more. I like the way the 70s sounded, so that's a little that's why it's getting B instead of up higher. I mean, the quality of the songwriting is good. It's just this thing has got 1983 stamped all over it. So, cheesy synthesizers. If you like your cheesy synthesizers, then you're going to like Secret Messages. Coming in at number 13, notch above Secret Messages, is its follow-up, 1986's Balance of Power. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad album. I give it a good, strong B. I love the songwriting is good, and there are a few of these songs that I really like. I really like Calling America, Getting to the Point. I really like So Serious. Oh, that's a fantastic song. So there's a lot of good stuff on here. It's just, it sounds like 1986. If you imagine in your head what 1986 would sound like, and then you plop this thing on, you're going to recognize it. That's 1986. I recognize that. The thing that, as far as a side note, because I've got my notes over here. As far as a side note, the thing that I think is interesting about this is the last album that they recorded in what I think of as their classic period, their original performing days, their original recording contract. This was it. This was the contractual final obligation. It started with their debut album and ended with this. And their debut album, they were a trio, Jeff Lynne, Roy Wood, and Bev Bevan. When it comes to this one, they're a trio, Jeff Lynne, Bev Bevan, and Richard Tandy. In between, they had grown to the point where they got like 7, 8, 9, 10, just a shitload of people in this band. 7, I'm pretty sure, is as big as they got. But they started as a trio. They go out as a trio. I think that's interesting. Coming in at number 12, I was just talking about it. Number 12 is 1971's debut, the Electric Light Orchestra, released in America as No Answer. I give Balance of Power and Secret Messages. Those are both good solid Bs. This one is a B+. There is a lot of good music on here, which is surprising to me, in part because the first time I listened to this, back when I was in college, I was not aware of this when it first came out. I was, fucking 8 years old when it first came out, so yeah, I didn't know anything about it at the time. First time I heard it was when I was in college, and the main reaction I had when I was listening to it was, okay, this is weird. It's weird. It's a lot of weird music that was made in order to be weird. And at that time, that was, for me, a negative judgment. Now I like weird for the sake of being weird. So, I'm much more comfortable with the weirdness factor. The other reason why I'm surprised that it rates as highly as it does is that it is the least Jeff Lynne centric album in the entire catalog. When ELO first started, it was the joint creative vision of Roy Wood, who actually had the idea, and Jeff Lynne. And on this album, it's pretty much 50-50. Half the songs are Jeff, half the songs are Roy. And I'm not a big Roy Wood fan. I don't dislike Roy or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. Don't send me hate mail or anything like that. It's just, if I'm going to listen to ELO, it's because I want to listen to Jeff Lynne, not because I want to listen to Roy Wood. That being said, one of the better songs on here is one of the Roy songs, Look at Me Now. I love that song. It's fantastic. But mostly, when I think of this album, I think of 10538 Overture and Mr. Radio. Those two songs are why I'm always going to have a copy of this in my collection. Now, this next one, we're B plus A minus. We're in that territory. I mean, my original ranking, I had it as a B plus. When I sorted and did my fiddling, I bumped it up to A minus. Now I'm thinking maybe B plus is where it. So I'm just going to say it's on the border between those two. And that is 1973's follow up to their first album, ELO 2. On the positive side, Roy Wood is on his way out. He barely shows up on this thing. And I like Jeff Lynne. Richard Tandy arrives. I like Richard Tandy. And there is some good stuff on here. Their version of Roll Over Beethoven is on here, which, of all of the covers of Roll Over Beethoven I've ever heard, it's my favorite. Kiyama is on here, and Kiyama is a good song. It's interesting for a pop song in that it is A, 11 minutes long. You don't expect a pop song to be 11 minutes long. And B, it's about the complex relationship between a veteran and a war orphan as they try to build trust and rapport with one another. not the stuff you'd normally sing about in a pop record. But it's still, I think it could be edited a little bit. It's a little on the repetitious side, but still, it's a fantastic song. This is a good, strong album. The thing that makes it, if I think about Roll Over Beethoven and Kiyama, the quality of those songs, that's what's making me want to put it up into A minus territory. The fact that it's not an album that I'm going to readily listen to as much as the others makes me think, yeah, B plus is probably better suited. It's not that I don't like the album. I like all of these albums. It's just, if I'm going to listen to an ELO album, I'm going to have to be listening to a lot before I finally put this one on. So, number 11, ELO 2. Number 10. Okay, there aren't very many decisions that I'm making here that I think most people who are ELO fans are going to disagree with. They may not completely agree, but I don't think anybody's going to be just astounded that I'm sticking, for example, Balance of Power down toward the bottom. I don't think that's out there, right? This next one, I think I'm going to get some pushback on. I think most people are going to want to put this one up much higher than number 10. At number 10, I've got 1981's Time. Now, A minus, okay? We are in solid A territory from here on out, so do not misunderstand. I am not saying this is a bad album. No, this is a very good album. I'm particularly fond of Twilight. I love that song. Hold On Tight was the radio single. Yours Truly, 2095, is also on here. It's a good song. The quality of the songwriting, I think, is good. I don't think it's quite as strong as the stuff that's higher up. So I've got it at number 10. But it's a good album. It's, like I said, A minus. Good album. 1981. Time. Okay. Coming in at number 9. 1973's On the Third Day. One of the spots where I was having trouble when I was ranking these was between these two, right? On the Third Day and Time. It's like, which way should they go, right? And I eventually decided that this one should be ranked a little bit higher than Time, just because when I think of Time, I think of the songs that I mentioned: Twilight, Hold On Tight, Yours Truly, 2095. When I think of this thing, I think of Showdown and Mama Ma Belle and New World Rising. And I think Showdown and Mama Ma Belle are better than Twilight and Hold On Tight. More importantly, for me as ELO fan, this was their third album, released in 1973, On the Third Day. And Roy Wood is gone. It's all Jeff Lynne from here out. So I like this album. Okay. Coming in at number 8. Okay. This is the other half of something I just said a little while ago. I think most people are going to look at the fact that I ranked Time as low as I did as, ooh, what are you put that one at number 10? And you would put From Out of Nowhere at number 8 of all places? From Out of Nowhere, 2019. This is the most recent album we've got. This is Jeff Lynne's ELO. Jeff Lynne's ELO. And yeah, I like this. This is strong. This is really good. This shows me that he may be getting up in years, but he is not losing his fastball. He is still writing good music. He is still recording good music. And he's playing the shit out of this stuff. This album is 99.9% Jeff Lynne performed. He's doing all of the vocals. He's doing all of the instrumentation. The only thing on here, I've got it in my notes, yeah, we've got one piano solo that Richard Tandy does, and we've got assorted handshakers and tambourines and stuff, yeah, assorted bits of hand percussion that the recording engineer does. Everything else is Jeff, which it just impresses the hell out of me. And we've got some really good songs on here. All My Love is really good. One More Time is good. Time of Our Life is good. The title track, From Out of Nowhere, is good. This is a strong album. This is a good, solid A. I like From Out of Nowhere. I also like, coming in at number 7, 2001's Zoom. I like this album. I liked it when it first came out. I was excited because I had read that ELO was going to be touring in support of this. And so I was just waiting with bated breath for them to come to a city near me. They ended up canceling the tour, which just broke my little heart at the time. I loved this album when it came out. As much as I respect Jeff for his ability to play as many instruments as he does, as well as he does, as much as I love that, I like hearing occasional people who have different fingerprints. This song's on here where George Harrison is playing the lead guitar, and you can tell it's George Harrison. You recognize that slide right off the bat. Ringo is doing some of the drumming on here, and you can pick Ringo out of a lineup, right? So I like that there are other musicians bringing in stuff here. And the quality of the songwriting is good. We've got All Right is good, Moment in Paradise is good, Just for Love. Oh, I like Just for Love. Good album. Love this album. Okay. Now, that was, okay. This next one is going to be the other contentious one. I think most, from the videos I've watched and from the things I've read, I think most ELO fans are going to want to put this up like top 3, maybe. I've got it at number 6, so it's not like I'm shitting on it or anything like that. It's just the stuff above it I like better. Um, and that's 1974's El Dorado. I like El Dorado, don't get me wrong. A good solid A. It's a good solid A album. The sound of the album is really good. It stands out when you're listening, if you're just running through the discography, because he's actually working with an orchestra here. It's not two cellists and a violinist overdubbing the hell out of what they're doing, trying to make it sound big. We got an actual symphony going here, which gives the album a sonic depth that most of their other albums don't have, which is nice. The main thing when you compare this to the albums that came before it is that Jeff Lynne is doing actual songs now. It's not so much, well, we're just going to noodle for 10 minutes and hope that something comes from it. Actual pop songs, with the verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, verse, chorus kind of structure to them. He's got actual recognizable pop structures on here, which is nice. And we've got some good songs. Can't Get It Out of My Head is a winner. Illusions in G Major is good. Boy Blue is good. So there's a lot of good stuff on here. My only, and I'm stumbling because I'm trying to come up with a word besides criticism, because it's not really a criticism. It's just, I was just praising the depth of the sound, the fact that we've got this whole orchestra, and so it seems kind of shitty for me to now say the only reason I don't like it is that it sounds like there's too many people on it. Right? I mean, it doesn't have the immediacy that the other albums do. I feel like I'm in an audience when I'm watching this one, whereas when I'm listening to the rest of these, I feel like I'm in the room. Okay, it's a hard thing to explain, but I respect the hell out of El Dorado. I just would prefer to listen to the stuff up above it. And yes, that includes number 5, 2015's Alone in the Universe. Yes, I rank Alone in the Universe higher than El Dorado. So sue me. I loved this album. I loved it when it came out, love it still today, and it only came out a few years ago, so 2015, so it's not like it's had a long time to age. This is the first album of Jeff Lynne's ELO, which makes sense that he'd be calling it Jeff Lynne's ELO since he's on the recordings anyway. He's doing 99.9% of the work. As on From Out of Nowhere, he's playing all the instruments. This time we've got 2 background vocals by, I believe, his daughter. I'll put a correction crawl up here if I'm wrong about that. And again, we've got the occasional hand percussion from the recording engineer. But apart from that, this is all Jeff. And there is some really good stuff on here. Dirty to the Bone. Dirty to the Bone. Ain't It a Drag I like. One Step at a Time I like. When I Was a Boy. Very good. This good album. Good, strong album. And like I said on From Out of Nowhere, he hasn't lost his fastball. Thank God. Okay. Excuse me. For my top 4, we are in A+ territory. Okay? All of these are not just strongly recommended, they are very strongly recommended. They are so strongly recommended that I feel like I ought to be setting up a GoFundMe so that I can buy you a copy of it so that you can have it. Okay? Coming in at number 4 is 1979's Discovery. Or as Richard Tandy said, disco? Very. It cracks me up every time I think about it. Discovery is a really good album. And, okay, I know what you're thinking. Oh, it's a disco album. And no, it is not a disco album. As I have said before, first, if you were recording music in the late 70s, you were going to put out something that had a disco flavor to it because disco was just all over the place in the mid to late 70s. So you just stop with that shit right there. But then secondly, it takes more than a tempo that has a certain number of beats per minute to qualify as disco. This stuff has a disco beat. That does not make it disco. That being said, There's some really good disco on here. uh, Don't Bring Me Down was the monster hit off of here. Last Train to London. I love Last Train to London. But if the only thing that this had on it was Shine a Little Love, it would still be an A+ album. If it was just that one song looped 10 times, it'd be a better album than most people were releasing, 5 years to either side of 1979. Oh my God, is this a good album? Diary of Horace Wimp. I mean, how can you not like Diary of Horace Wimp? Come on. Discovery, fantastic album. Good solid A+. My number 3 album, also a good solid A+. This is from 1975, and it is Face the Music. Face the Music is just like a hit machine, a hit monster. I mean, every song on here could have been a top 10 hit had it been released as a single. As it is, we've got Evil Woman and Strange Magic. We've got Fire on High, which even though you don't recognize that title, if you're not an ELO fan, you're going to recognize it as soon as you hear it because it's been used so many times, and it's one of the few instrumentals that did at the time regularly get played on the radio, because I had heard it before I'd ever heard of this album. Night Rider is a good song on here. I mean, every song on here is a winner. This is fantastic. I mean, we've got good solid arguments that both of these are perfect albums. As we do with number 2, A New World Record from 1976. This was the album that pretty much cemented the Electric Light Orchestra as an international phenomenon, as a touring machine, as the greatest band in the world of their day. This was one of those records that when I was in high school when it came out, everybody had a copy of this thing. So you're familiar with all of it, even if you were one of the few who never actually bought a copy of it. And once again, it's nothing but fantastic music. We've got the hits, Living Thing, Telephone Line, Do Ya. We've also got Rock Aria, which most people have heard. We've got Tightrope, which I think is one of their best songs. Oh, I love Tightrope. Even the lesser cuts, the deep cuts, the stuff that's hidden away in the nooks and crannies of side 2, Above the Clouds. Fantastic song. I mean, there's not a stinker on the bunch. Definitely a perfect album. But my number 1 ELO album, if you've watched my perfect album videos, you know what's coming. 1977's Out of the Blue. I've told this story on a couple of other videos, so I'm not going to go into depth here. Suffice to say that there was a summer during my high school years where I was pretty much locked in a room with 2 albums, Out of the Blue and Love Gun by Kiss. And I ended up listening to those 2 albums over and over and over during the course of that summer. And by the end of the summer, I wanted to just burn Love Gun. Even had you suggested in an obviously joking manner that you wanted to play Love Gun, I would have hit you over the head with an axe handle. I did not ever want to hear that album ever again. Something that I've only within about the past 10 years gotten over. I can listen to Love Gun now. And for many years I couldn't even make it through it. So, but Out of the Blue, I came out of that summer thinking this was the best thing I'd ever heard in my life. And I can to this day sit down and listen to it. If I'm going to listen to an album, a single album by ELO, this is going to be the one I'm going to pick. If my house is burning and I can only save one, this is the one I'm going to save. The best album that ELO did, and quite, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best albums I've ever heard. If A New World Record was huge, this thing was huge times 10. Everybody knows at least one of the songs on here. I'm pretty sure you can't be a sentient adult and not be familiar with either Turn to Stone or Mr. Blue Sky. They're both just perfect little pop records. We've also got It's Over, Steppin' Out, Starlight, Big Wheels. I mean, there's not a stinker on the bunch. Perfect album, and for it to be a double album, it's amazing to have that level of quality over 2 full albums. I cannot say enough positive things about Out of the Blue. And that's how I would rank the albums of ELO. Do Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below. Let me know. Thank you very much for sticking around this long. If you enjoyed the video, which if you're still here, I'm assuming you did, I'd appreciate it if you'd click that like button. Go ahead and subscribe and click the notification button as well while you're at it. While you're clicking, you might as well get the whole hat trick. I appreciate it if you do. And again, thank you for watching, and I hope that the rest of your day is glorious. See you soon.